I seem to recall a certain podcast saying Raptors 30 and a half. Why is it so high? Why is that number so high? Take the under. Take the under. Easy under. That's a shout out to the Ringer podcast. Shout out to Bill Simmons and shout out to Ryan Russillo. Y'all getting cooked if the Raptors keep winning because it looks like the Raptors are going to hit that over. And whoever listened to you guys on your sports parlays is probably going to lose a lot of money because you made it seem like there was no chance that the Raptors could ever win 30 games. And I got news for you. The Toronto Raptors, the Toronto Raptors have done everything in their power to lose, rest guys, play guys who, maybe don't necessarily need minutes right now, like Colin Castleton, and they're still winning because there's more to winning than your box plus minus. There's more to winning than your PPG and your APG and your height and what school you went to and where you were drafted. There's a lot more to winning. It comes down to habits. We've seen it right now. There is continuity of your program. There's organizational culture. There's your coaching staff. There is the trust that exists between a coach and their players. I'll start this live out not just by talking about the Toronto Raptors, who whooped the Brooklyn Nets behind a dominant performance from Jonathan Mogbo. Big shout out to JMO, who had a performance that is quite reminiscent of his college career, if I'm being honest. Playing in the middle of the floor, dissecting the defense, being everywhere defensively. Shout outs to Jacoby Walter, who played a great game. Didn't play a lot of minutes, but played a great game overall. Shout outs to Jamal Shead, who controlled and quarterbacked this offense to the tune of a career high 12 assists. Nice to see that. But I'm going to start this by saying I am so insanely happy for the UConn Huskies. So insanely happy. I share this as a grown man. As I saw Paige Beckers hug Gino Auriemma, hug all her coaches as she finally took a seat after an exhausting 5 years of putting everything in her heart into that UConn program in the age of transfer portals, in the age of whatever, where she could have easily explored different waters. The best player in the country delivered a championship to UConn. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Paige Beckers, man. I got to tell you, my affection for Paige as a player is, I don't want to say on par, but it is very similar to my affection for Scottie as a player. They both represent exactly the same thing, and that is basketball values, fundamentals, team first, culture builders, selfless teammates. There's so many overlaps between these two people that you wouldn't be surprised to find out that Scottie and Paige are actually good friends. And I got to tell you, I usually don't care. When the UConn Huskies, the men's side, won last year, I was happy for them. I was a big fan of Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan. I didn't feel anything. The last time I felt something for an NBA champion, Nikola Jokic, obviously felt pride for my country. That was something. And then prior to that was the Raptors championship. Prior to that, I couldn't tell you. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. But it was a very emotional moment for me to see that team finally break through. It reminded me of everything that I love about basketball. That UConn Huskies team plays hard. They didn't stop competing. They whooped the shit out of that SC team. Shout outs to South Carolina and Dawn Staley and all the ladies over there who worked very hard all season. But there could only be one. And frankly, going into this, I would have bet my life that the UConn Huskies were going to win this game. Paige was not going to let her team lose this game. Sarah Strong, huge performance for a freshman. And I just can't wait to see that program continue to blossom. And Cass saying Paige or Juju, Rob, I like Paige more, man. I'm sorry. So I love Juju. So, yeah, I just want to say big shout out to Paige Beckers. Can't wait to see you in the WNBA. Cannot wait to see how your career unfolds. Cannot wait to see you rock it out. And, maybe a lot of people don't think about Paige. They're too busy talking about Caitlin Clark and, everybody else. I feel like she just kind of very understated. Her brilliance has been very understated throughout her career, but I cannot tell you like how much I admire her basketball IQ, her acumen, her defense. It's incredible. Okay, back to the Raptors. The Toronto Raptors win. Jonathan Mogbo was dominant. Let's talk about it. So the Raptors, the magic number is 1, and it remains 1 because despite resting Scottie Barnes, no Grady Dick, no I can't wait for a season where I don't have to start every single game summary by telling you who's missing. No Jakob Poeltl. Here's the list. No Scottie Barnes, no Grady Dick, no Jakob Poeltl, no Chris Boucher in the lineup, no Brandon Ingram. Shall I continue? Like, this is ridiculous. This team is playing with third stringers, rookies, and they're winning. They are winning. They sustained probably not a great game from RJ Barrett tonight, if we're being honest, and they still whooped this team, the Brooklyn Nets, because the Brooklyn Nets have just given up on the season and they are full tank mode. I said before the game that if I was Masai Ujiri, I would make a little wink deal with Sean Marks and just say, y'all go win this game, go play Cam Johnson, win this game, we'll play it easy, and then we'll go out and win every single game for the rest of the season. We just need one loss so we can start playing Brandon Ingram. Unfortunately, it is what it is at this point. Someone said 101, 103. Oh my God. Is that about to happen? Oh my God. The Spurs are about to complete the comeback from hell. No, they're not going to win. They're not going to win, guys. They're not going to win. Sorry to tell you, they're not going to win. Nevertheless, Cass saying watch party. Y'all want to do a watch party? Can I just put the game cast on? Yeah, I'll just put it on. There you go. The reason we're even doing this, it's the magic number thing, right? Like, we gotta hang on. I should just put the play-by-play on. There you go. I genuinely don't think the Spurs are going to win this game, but if they do, wow, right? Wow, if they do. Anyways, unbelievable. Nice comeback. But look, the reason this magic number thing matters for anyone who's kind of cluing in, like, why are we doing a Spurs Blazers watch party? Well, very simple. Number one, a Spurs win really helps us here. Number two, a Blazers loss would really help us here because we own the Blazers second round pick. So this is kind of like a double, like we're all Spurs fans right now. We're all rooting for this win because I'll tell you right now, Masai Ujiri in his office right now, literally watching this in fainted breath, saying like, please God, let us, because the Raptors do have a final home game against the Charlotte Hornets, and it would be very, very good if the Raptors could, in theory at least, play competitive basketball. Now, tonight we got a very competitive game in general in the first quarter, and then the Raptors just kind of blew it open, and it didn't feel like it was ever really in doubt. Like, the Raptors just had better composure in that game. I'm gonna have to pull up the box score on the other side. I'll just read out the box score. I won't be able to show you the box score since we're doing this watch party thing. But yeah, I mean, the Raptors win 120-109. In the first quarter, they win. The second quarter, they win. The third quarter, they lose. The fourth quarter, they win. It was wire to wire. Effectively, they win their minutes with Jamal Shead. I mean, they lose this game by. They win this game by 11. You see the little tank fan coming out there. They lose this game. And in the 29 minutes with their starting point guard on the floor, Jamal Shead, who had 12 assists, they were at plus 31. That's impressive. And basically, it was the AJ Lawson and Jared Rhoden minutes that you lost. Really, that's about it. AJ Lawson, RJ Barrett, those are your net negatives today. It's kind of wild that RJ Barrett was -3 in this game. But anyways, like he shot abysmally from the line, 5 for 11, 4 for 16 from the field, really struggled finishing around the basket, really struggled with a shot, went 0 for 4 from 3. So just not the greatest game from RJ Barrett. But hey, man, like, let's keep the same energy. We're not judging Scottie Barnes for having 5 points against the Blazers the other night. We're definitely not judging this shit. And by the way, guys, I'm giving you some free advice here. The Spurs are not winning this game. I don't know why we're doing this. They ain't winning this game. They're going to make it close, whatever. They're not going to win this game. So, anyways, let me continue. Yo, Rob, do you see Jacoby being an all-star in the future? I'm not betting against Jacoby Walter. And I'll get into that a little bit later. We're actually going to look at something Jacoby said prior to the draft. But anyways, like in this game, like it was really the Jonathan Mogbo show, man. He shoots 8 for 9 from the field. Like, let me read out Jonathan Mogbo's stat line. Not per 100 possessions, RDM Anthony. Sorry to take a swipe at you there. No per 100. This is just his box score. Okay. 17 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He initiated a lot of the offense tonight, and that was pretty cool. Made a lot of great decisions. The pass that he made, like where I think it was AJ Lawson who slipped it and then found himself at the rim, and the Nets didn't notice, and that little whip pass, yo, that was cinema. There's something about playmaking that is very important, and I'm going to tell you very briefly why, despite some tough finishing numbers around the rim, despite all that stuff, why I really, really believe in Jonathan Mogbo. And it's going to require me telling you about an archetype. Okay. I have a particular affinity for big guys who used to be very little guys. I don't know if this because I'm 5'11" and I was always praying that I would have one summer where I'd wake up and I'd be 6'5". I don't know if that's it, or if it's because there's a long history of guys who had to figure out how to be small. And then one day we're blessed with that thing that we all wanted as young hoopers, which was size. So Michael Jordan was one of them. Scottie Pippen was one of them. Dennis Rodman was one of them. I mean, there's a lot of players. Anthony Davis was another one of them. There's a lot of players that you think about in NBA history who had a late growth spurt and grew up playing guard. Jonathan Mogbo is one of those players. Scottie Barnes is not, ironically. Scottie is not. Scottie was like 6'3" and like, I don't know, he's like 6'3" in grade 6. He's huge. But Jonathan Mogbo was the little guy. Scottie has a lot of little friends. Jonathan Mogbo was one of them. Until one day he woke up and they were the same size. So the interesting thing about that is when you're smaller, naturally playing point, playing guard, having to shift, get through angles, you don't have the same advantages. They try to tell you when you're a young hooper that you should try to play against size as much as humanly possible. Free advice to anyone who has kids out there who are young hoopers, like maybe grade 6, grade 7, if they're actually good, and this is where you're going to have to use your discretion and stop being, fanboys. Like if they're actually good, if your kids are actually good, get them some reps at a higher level immediately. Even if they struggle, even if they're terrible, find bigger opponents to play against. You need to play against size. The reason you need to play against size, you need to like learn to make those angles natural early on. This is something that I did when I was in grade 7. I would try to play against grade 11 and grade 12 kids as much as humanly possible. And I would just be a standstill shooter, but still it helped me to finish over length. It helped me to adjust my arc. It helped everything. So this is very important. I told you guys, like, I don't know why y'all surprised. I told you the Blazers ain't losing this game. Okay. And the Spurs are not winning this game. Like Chris Paul is there to make one thing happen, and that is to make sure that the Spurs lose this game. So anyways, what am I saying? Jonathan Mogbo was one of those players. And you can really see those point guard tendencies and those decision-making things coming up. Now, the problem is when you first go up against greater size, you struggle a lot. And you grow through that. And J-Mo was an undersized power forward center. Even though he grew up playing point guard and shooting guard, he ended up becoming more of a power forward center who wasn't really allowed to shoot threes in college. And he played probably against lesser competition than you would like. He didn't play in the ACC. He didn't play in the Big East. He played out in the Mountain West. So for him, this jump to the NBA is enormous. So even though he led the entire conference in box plus minus last year, his role is completely different in the NBA. It doesn't mean he still can't do all those things. It just means the Raptors have asked him to do something completely unnatural to him, which is transition over to the wing, become more of a standstill pop shooter, because they're trying to grow him. They're trying to develop him. And in order to develop a player, and this is what I think a lot of people don't understand when they
talk about the early struggles of young players is it really depends how you're struggling. If you're struggling being exactly who you are, exactly what you're supposed to do, if if you're struggling at what's natural to you and what is your ultimate archetype, that's another issue, i.e., Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham as rookies. Big struggles, exactly what they were supposed to do. They didn't come out and have to play some fundamentally different role that completely shifted every single thing about their game. With Jonathan Mogbo, you really do have to understand what the Raptors are aiming at here. And I think what the Raptors are aiming at is Scottie Pippen. I think they want him to become a Pippen esque player. And in order to do that, of course, you're not going to completely take away the versatility and the potential to slide down and play a little bit of power forward, but you do want to develop some more of those wing skills because you don't want him to just become an undersized five. Because as a five, he has the advantages that he had today. Again, you see it when he plays next to Jakob Poeltl, totally different player. If you play him in place of Jakob Poeltl like we did today, totally different equation because this is natural to him. Playing the five like he's been doing for the last 3-4 years, played in JUCO, played five. That's natural to him. Beating, bigs off the bounce, using his quickness advantage. The Nets defense was abysmal, so I guess that doesn't help. Look, it's a 9-point game. Okay, we can turn this shit off, man. They're not losing this game. What did I say? Wow. And yo, like I got to tell you, while I was watching this game, I did switch a little bit, and I did watch the OKC Thunder completely get walked by the Lakers, and now we're watching the Cleveland Cavaliers get beat by the Sacramento Kings. So this is a wild day in the NBA. This is very wild. We did not jinx it, my friend. This is absolutely 100%. RDM saying, I still think Kyle Filipowski will turn out better than JMO. I wish we drafted him. Kyle Filipowski is ass. Sorry, man. He's ass. He's not a good rim protector. He's a defensive liability. He's pretty skilled for a big. Plays in a system that is very tailor-made to his strengths. But I don't think he has anywhere near the defensive potential and two-way potential that Jonathan Mogbo has. But you know what? It's cool, man. It's cool. I have come to peace with the fact that not everyone is going to agree about basketball, but I've also come to the perspective that I don't necessarily need to talk down to every single person who disagrees with me about basketball. So maybe a week ago, I would give you like 180 different stats to give you a reason why Jonathan Mogbo projects to be the better player, and I would make the argument because I would be so how shall I say, invested in having you see my perspective. And I'm coming to terms with the fact that you may never see my perspective, and that's okay because at some point one of us is going to be right and one of us is going to be wrong. And if you're a Raptor fan, I'm hoping that you are praying that you're wrong. Anyways, so don't the Blazers have just as much incentive to lose this game as the Spurs do, though? Obviously, you were right, but I'm curious how you predicted this. I have a crystal ball and I can see the future. And the future says that ain't no one out tanking the Spurs right now. I told you, man, like it's very difficult to imagine the Spurs winning another game this year. So the Raptors are going to have to do it themselves. The Raptors are going to have to lose a game at some point. If they lose to the Mavericks, that will probably be their best bet. But if they don't, it's going to come down to a final game against the Spurs because obviously this Raptors team just plays way too hard to lose to like the Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards, whoever the hell they're facing next. Anyway, during this game, we got a very okay. We ended up with a very competent Cole Swider performance. Like he's kind of growing on me a little bit, not as anything significant, but maybe just someone that you took a look at for your G League, maybe someone that you could look at as a two-way contract next year. I doubt it, but he's a little bit older, but he's not that old. I think he's 24 years old. So, he took 6 threes, including a very interesting flyby sidestep 3 off the dribble. That was pretty cool. That was like there was a little, I guess you get aura points for hitting a 3 like that. Right. So Cole came off the bench. The Raptors just picked up a second 10-day on him. It's the final 10-day of the season because in 10 days, the season will be over. So he's up for the rest of the season, specifically the rookies tonight, man. Jacoby Walter, not, you look at the box score, 8 points, 5 rebounds. You're not impressed, but he did this in 18 minutes and his defense was incredible. 2 steals, 1 block, and this chat is so toxic. You are absolutely within your rights as a, you know, Canadian in North America to leave the chat. If it feels toxic for you, I think it is absolutely, imperative for your mental health that you leave any situation that you feel to be toxic. So, I will perfectly understand. I will not hold it against you if you decide to take a 1-year departure from the chat. It's perfectly fine with us. All right. So we are, yeah, Orlando Robinson. Yeah, Orlando Robinson had a good name. Like, honestly, it's so hard to judge what any of this means against this level of competition. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're playing Drew Timmy major minutes. Reese Beekman. Give me a W if you know who the hell Reek Beekman is, because I follow basketball like Reese Beekman. Sorry, I just called him Reek Beekman. My bad. I wasn't trying to troll. If you know who Reese Beekman is, if you know 2 things about Reese Beekman, please give me a W. I don't. I don't know 2 things about Reese Beekman. Okay? Like, who are these people? Tosan Ev Boo. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who the hell this guy is, man. Who he play for? I don't know. Does he play for the Brooklyn Nets G League affiliate? They're making shit up now. They are making players up. This is like this is like when you play your boy in 2K and you don't have the right settings on, and then some random ass person comes off their bench with a 99 3-point rating. You're like, who the fuck is that? That's a created player, man. That's a fake player. That guy's not supposed to be on your team. Okay, so this creative player comes off and ends up leading the Brooklyn Nets in shot attempts tonight. Yo, what the hell is going on? Oh, yo, like, you're not gonna out-tank this team. I'll tell you right now. Like, I told you how long ago did I tell you you're not gonna out-tank the Brooklyn Nets? I told you we're not gonna out-tank the Brooklyn Nets when we were like 6 games ahead of the Brooklyn Nets. It's just not possible. I know you want it to be possible. I know it seems like it's possible, but mathematically, you win and lose a game. There's a winner and a loser in every single game, and they unfortunately just played a much tougher schedule, a much easier schedule earlier in the season. So again, it's just hard. The Nets have negative potential. The Nets suck, man. It is, it's truly abysmal because Jordy is such a good coach, and you do wish for better, right? And you certainly hope that he does not become a scapegoat for this bullshit ass season that they're having, especially if they come out and struggle next year as well. But they don't, they play hard, they play the right way. But tonight it just felt like the Raptors just had their calling card. So yeah, but it was the rookies tonight, man. This is a story of the season right now for me, which is the rookies. These 5 rookies that we have, and I realize out of sight, out of mind. People are not talking about Ulrich, but I'm a huge Ulrich fan, as y'all know. I love Ulrich. I've been on record saying he'd be a first round draft pick in 2025, and I did not stutter when I said that. I will 100% say that he's very raw. Yes, it may seem like dime a dozen. I've heard people saying that he would be a 3rd string center on a Division 1 team. Cap. I have it on pretty good authority that when he went on some of his visits, there was absolutely talk of him starting as a freshman, or at least having a very, very prominent bench role. So don't tell me that Ulrich Chomche is so freaking raw that he can have 3 blocks and be so physically dominant at the G League level, but apparently a college team can't use this guy. Yo, like, there's a lot of raw players from NBA Africa Academy, okay? You're not going to tell me that Ulrich is like the rawest of the bunch. He's not. He's phenomenally athletic. And I do feel like a lot of Raptor fans kind of dismiss it because he was 57th pick. Yo, I'm telling you right now, God is my witness. You cooked with the 57th pick. Don't dismiss it. Like, he is a very, there are certain things that translate on all levels. And it doesn't really matter if we're talking about basketball, we're talking about hockey, we're talking about rugby. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to say something that translates well is, do you listen well? Do you take feedback well? I watch a lot of content where players are working with trainers. I really enjoy it, partially because I watch for the correction. I've watched it with Asar and Amen, back when they were in OTE, and I really like that footage. Sometimes I'll have a friend who'll do like 10 minutes and they'll just send it on their cell phone and say, this is a 10-minute workout with, I don't know, Cole Anthony or Jalen Suggs or whatever. And I'll just observe it partially because of, just curiosity. I just want to see these workouts, partially because, I want an edge to understand the game a little bit more differently. And I don't train NBA players, so I'm always interested what these little sessions look like. But the most interesting part of it is, how do you correct? So when you do a move incorrectly, or if you need an adjustment and your trainer is trying to give you an adjustment, how dialed in are you, and how quickly do you make that adjustment? How well do you make that adjustment, and how quickly do we see results from that adjustment? It could be a ball handling drill, it could be a shooting drill, it could be a layup drill, it could be whatever. It really doesn't matter. To me, I'm just looking for how well do you receive feedback, because it's going to determine your whole life. Okay. How quickly you receive, number one, when I give you feedback, can you even hear me? There are certain people whose minds go blank when you're talking to them. They hear 2 words for every 10 words you tell them. Those people are arrogant, usually, maybe have ADHD, maybe just have like very poor attention, maybe don't want to listen, maybe are very resistant to listening. And those people are probably going to be very difficult to coach. They're going to be very difficult to coach. There's also the person who has the ego where they think everything that they're doing is right. So they're going to listen to you, but then they're going to fight back on it. They're going to resist everything. And then that just kind of like becomes a tug of war. Then there's the person who is extremely coachable and very receptive to coaching. And I want to give you some examples of those players because I've seen some of these workouts. Jamison Battle, Jacoby Walter, Jonathan Mogbo. Mogbo less so, no offense, but yes, him too. These players, you stop them, they stop. You talk to them, they listen. You ask for a change, they make the change, and you see results. Whether you're working on with Ochai on his shooting form, like Darko was, whether you're working on the step gathers with Jonathan Mogbo and Jamison Battle, like Darko and Jama do all the time, whether you're working on the pull-up 3 with Jamison Battle, like his trainer does every single time they have a session, whether we're talking about jump shooting drills and pull-up drills like Brian does with Scottie, all of these things require tweaks. You need to make tweaks. Basketball is a game of milliseconds and inches and details. And these details are what change your results, right? Today, Coach Kelvin Sampson talked about how he got his team shooting 150 free throws every single day. It was a very small adjustment, but today, the Houston Cougars, or yesterday, the Houston Cougars won because they made their free throws. And the Duke Blue Devils lost because they didn't make their free throws. These are the details. So ultimately, the Raptors have brought in 5 players who are exceptionally coachable. Now, I do want to say, as coachable as I believe that Jonathan Mogbo and Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shead, all these rookies are, as coachable and as receptive to coaching as I believe Darko and Scottie, their relationship has been, as great as all of that is, there's no player on this team, and I'm going to say this with a straight face, there's no player on this team that has impressed me more in these types of settings than Ulrich. No player. Not Scottie, not IQ, nobody. He is, I don't know these players. There's like one or 2 players that I've maybe had some interactions with, but I don't know any of these players personally. I know a lot about them because I'm very well researched, and I care to be very well researched about this stuff. So I would probably know a lot more about Jacoby or Jamal than the average person who covers this team. But that doesn't mean I know them. It doesn't mean we hang out. I would venture to guess that Ulrich might be the smartest player on this team. Like, it's something about how he connects things that just very much impresses me. I think Scottie's really smart. I think Jamal Shead is insanely smart. I think a lot of players on this team, Jamison Battle, I think there's a lot of really smart people on this team. But something about Ulrich just sticks out, and I'm just like, he might be a genius. And I don't know like how much of that comes through because of the language barrier. Because often when people have a language barrier, they're not able to communicate as well, and you kind of have to listen to them in their own language. Smart, definitely not basketball IQ. Ulrich might be the dumbest player on this team in terms of basketball IQ. It's definitely not about basketball IQ. It's just because he's raw. Ulrich, I mean as actual intellectual IQ. Jakob is hella smart too. It's just the Austrian accent. Don't let it fool you. It fools everybody. That German Austrian accent makes people sound smart as hell. But I'm just kidding. Jakob is hella smart as well. Jakob is an insanely smart person as well. No, like you listen to these people talk about anything, but really intelligence shows up in how you implement feedback. It really does. Like this is the cue of intelligence. If you're stupid, you'll never take feedback. So the intelligence that I'm talking about with Ulrich is like how he is learning at such a rapid pace. Like he misses nothing. When you go to these games and you observe Ulrich, like he is not yawning, he is not away from the play. He's like zoned in. He's so zoned in. He'll sit next to Garrett Temple and he'll poke him and he'll ask him a question about a play that just happened, and then Garrett will give him the feedback, or he'll wait politely for his turn when Brandon Ingram is not paying attention or something like that, and then he'll ask Brandon a question or he'll ask somebody else a question, and you just see this like insanely smart 18, 19-year old, and you're just like, with the athletic potential and the will to work and the desire to make this happen for himself and for his family and for his city, combined with the insane aptitude to grow, with the coachability, with the attention to detail, with the rapid acceleration, with the footwork that obviously comes from footy slash, soccer, all of this shit makes Ulrich a gem for me. People aren't talking about him because people are very, very obsessed with the other rookies. And I think that this is just cherry on top because whatever, if the Raptors have him pop later, maybe you don't have to pay him as much right away. Although I honestly want Ulrich to get paid, the Raptors be damned. I'm rooting for Ulrich to get as much money as he can. But what I'm saying is that is what I talked about earlier when I said Bill Russell could translate his game to today's game, because that shit that works, it works across spectrums. Ulrich could pick up football for the first time, American football for the first time, and he would probably be really good at it really quickly. There's certain people, and that's where intelligence comes up. It's how quickly you absorb things and how quickly you adjust and how quickly you notice all those patterns. I have seen this guy make a mistake in a G League game, have his coach pull him aside, talk to him about it, and then not make that same mistake for the rest of the game. Like he is just not a repeat offender of the same stupid shit. He makes mistakes. He makes a ton of mistakes. His game is very rudimentary and very, very simplified right now. And I'm sorry to take so much time to talk about Ulrich in a game that we should be talking about Jonathan Mogbo and Jamal Shead. But I just want to say that I think you're going to be very surprised with what you see from Ulrich Chomche like in the next 2 years. And don't sleep on him because he's a 57th pick, because I just don't think that that's reflective of his actual potential. I think someone messed up big time. And, I don't think Spurs fans thought very much of it when they drafted Manu Ginobili 56th. I don't think Denver Nuggets fans thought very much when they drafted Nikola Jokic in the second round. I think a lot of people tend to sleep on this. I don't think the Warriors fans, Dub Nation, thought they drafted the anchor of their dynasty with the 35th overall pick when they drafted Draymond Green. But intelligence is intelligence, man. Draymond might be the smartest player in NBA history. He's one of them. He's up there. He's one of the 5 smartest players of all time. And it really helps. It really helps to bring in those high IQ players, those high intelligence players. But it also helps to bring in high quality character players. So I want to talk about something else for a moment, which is also give this video a like if you are enjoying my slightly less antagonistic energy. Can you give this a like for self-improvement? I'm trying my best, guys, and I promise I'm gonna try to make this permanent. I'm trying to be a lot lighter. I'm gonna try to go on playback after the stream and just test it out. I don't wanna be making on people uncomfortable. Someone said the other day, "I think your subscribers are afraid of you." I'm like, "Oh, shit. Have I crashed out that many times? That's not good." I'm gonna try to be better, and I hope in 2 months you can say that this is like I've made a lot of progression throughout, the last few years. I think hopefully most of us can agree to that. I think this next step can be my greatest progression yet, to the point where I think I can, like, I meant that note that I read earlier about the tone and working on it. I meant that 100% from the heart. This last week has been a great deal of introspection for me, and yeah, I'm gonna work on it, guys. I'm gonna keep working on it. It's a work in progress for sure. But okay, okay. I'm gonna play you 2 little interviews. One with Jacoby prior to the draft, where he talks about his draft potential, and one with Jonathan Mogbo after the game. And I want you to tell me if you can see a common link between these two players.
Coming up for the NBA draft or going back to school, what is your decision and what kind of led you to your decision?
After praying and just talking to my family about it, I just decided that I'm going to declare for the 2024 NBA draft. And my reasoning for that, I've just all my life, I've just been working super hard, and this has always been a goal of mine. And I think my past year, I was just working really hard, and I think I did. I'm pretty proud of how I did this past season, and I'm just confident. And after just talking, that's what I decided to do.
When you go and visit NBA teams, interview with NBA teams, what's the biggest thing you want them to know about your game on the court?
Biggest thing I want them to know is that I'm a competitor, offensively and defensively. I'm gonna give everything I got. Unselfish player. If I gotta just rebound and crash the glass and dive on the floor to win, then I'm gonna do that to win. But I think there's a lot more to my game, especially in my shooting. I think I'm the best shooter in the draft, and these past couple of weeks I've been working on my shooting more. So I think just a very elite shooter that can space the floor. My handle is getting better, so I'm gonna be able to create my own shots off the dribble, get to my mid-range, pretty fluid mid-range. So I think just all around score, honestly, 3 levels. And then defensively, I like to compete no matter what it is. I'll sacrifice my body. So you're just going to get a competitor and I think a bucket getter for sure.
Who are your biggest role models right now in the NBA?
Yeah, biggest role models. I like Cade. I just like the way he plays. I've been watching a lot of Anthony Edwards. He's been dominating. Kawhi Leonard, just his two-way play. He's just real simple with his game, but he just gets buckets. Tracy McGrady, just watching him a little bit. His game was really fluid. I like all his pull-up jumpers, and
He really was destined to be a Raptor, huh? I mean, he totally was. Tracy McGrady, Kawhi Leonard, yeah. Mr. Jacoby Walter, come on down. You are a Toronto Raptor.
just the way that he shot the ball and created shots for himself. And then Shea, obviously,
And a
Shea,
Canadian.
he's just real smooth game. He just makes it look easy, but I mean that's just all the work that he's put in.
You're obviously projected to be a first-round pick. In some mock drafts, top 10. When you think about what you want out of this draft process, where you view yourself, what's your mindset been?
Yeah, my mindset's just been just grinding. I've seen the mocks, but I just know who I am. I know how confident I am in myself, and I think my work will show.
What are you most focused on? What are you doing right now to put yourself in a position where you're going to be more fluid and be more dominant?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in my shooting, but obviously I just want to get better at it every day. So I've just been getting a lot of reps up, trying to be more consistent with shooting. Ball handling, just been trying to get tighter, strong both ways, body wise, just been in the gym, trying to get stronger, add more weight, because I know at the next level, a lot of people are stronger than me. So really just my whole all around game, defensively, just moving laterally better. So I've just been working on my whole game, passing wise, and I just want to improve every aspect of my game.
Okay. You got one little interview there, right? I'm gonna give you the second interview right now, and you tell me if you spot one similarity. I apologize, it's gonna be a little bit hard, but
without him, nothing was happening. So, just the first day, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, without him, nothing was happening. So, just stay blessed, stay in prayer, and, good things happen. And I'm blessed to have this situation with my friends.
Jamal had a career high in assists tonight. What makes him a good facilitator?
The first day.
did you notice it? How about we also shout out to Hayes, Chicago Bulls Central, saying Walter's potential is through the roof. I completely agree with you. Okay. Saying Walter is him. Okay, so I'm just curious if anyone wants to point out any similarities between Jacoby Walter and Jonathan Mogbo. Anything that you might have noticed in those two interviews. Very brief interview, granted, with Jonathan Mogbo. Well, it's definitely not the Christians thing, but it is faith. And you are correct. Whether you're talking about Ulrich, whether you're talking about Jonathan Mogbo, whether you're talking about Scottie Barnes, whether you're talking about Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shead, you literally go down the line. There's a lot of very, very highly faithful people. Darko Rajakovic is also that way. It has allowed people to bond. Faith allows people to bond, and I don't want to make this a Christian versus anything. This is not about denominations and religion. This is about faith. This is about being devoted to something that's bigger than you. See, when you grow up believing that you have something that is greater than you, like that's your mantra, that's how your parents raised you, that's how your coaches raised you, that's how your family was. When you grow up like that, it's very easy to buy into a concept of team because the concept of team is bigger than you. I know this is probably very abstract and probably some people think I'm doing a Bikram stretch here, but it is true. There is a connection here. The Raptors consistently draft people who are just really good people. They're just really good people. I'll give you a very similar, a really strong similarity between all of these players. Do y'all remember that video where Jamal Shead is picking up trash after one of his teammates knocked over a garbage can so the custodian didn't have to do it after the Houston Cougars lost a really tough game, right? Do y'all remember that? I do agree. Armin saying, yep. Y'all remember me being so inspired by Jamal Shead that I ended up doing like a little bit of a community cleanup in my own building. That's the type of energy you need if you're trying to build a selfless culture. Culture starts with people. Culture changes when you bring the wrong people into your team. Now, y'all remember, 2022, 2023, I spent a great deal of time talking about selfishness, that this entire team felt selfish, disconnected, but the disconnect flows from the selfishness. It's very hard to connect with people when they're about themselves and you're asking them to be about bigger than the team. You see, if I'm a coach and I go up to Fred VanVleet, who's in a contract year, and I say, we need to get Malachi Flynn and Delano Banton some minutes, it's going to hurt your numbers, but I need you to trust me. You're asking him to buy into something that's bigger than himself. Hard to do if you're all about yourself. It's the same thing with Pascal Siakam. If you ask him to take an off-ball role so that Scottie can get some on-ball reps, that's going to be hard to do if you're gunning for a contract and that contract is bigger than you. I will tell you someone who fits very well into this, and I've done a lot of research on this, so I'm speaking from a lot of research. I'm not speaking from knowing the guy, but I'm speaking from a lot of experience and, having a lot of conversations. Brandon Ingram is like this. BI is 100% like this. Grady is 100% like this. They're all this way. They're all this way. Their families are this way. And so you've built this like beautiful culture. And I can't tell you how much easier it is to root for a team of good people. Even if this is about basketball, you spend a lot of time, like you want to talk about it, 82 games times 2.5 hours times 2 more hours doing these post-game lives, plus maybe like add in like 150 other lives. We're talking about pre-draft. We're talking about all this stuff. Okay. You want to combine all that time. That's a hell of a lot of time to devote covering a whole bunch of people that you do not admire as people. There's a whole bunch of time to devote covering and glorifying and discussing and dissecting people that you do not respect, that you do not admire, that you do not believe are good family people, that are good community people, that people that don't care about each other. So this is why I'm so excited about this team. It's not just the fact that I know that the progression is coming on the basketball court. It's about off the basketball court. It's that I know these people are happy. Emmanuel Quickley is another one of these guys. You talk Emmanuel Quickley, I swear that guy talks about God more than probably anyone on this team. Always comes to God. It always comes down to glory. Glory be to God. And it's not like one of those, I want to thank God for my success kind of thing. No, it's a different type of like, and I'm not, please let this not be triggering for anyone who's atheist or whatever. Respect to everybody, love is love. What I'm saying is this concept of something bigger than me, and it translates, to everything. He's very team first. He's very team oriented. He's very generous with his time, and that all translates to the culture and the togetherness you're seeing. Do you know how hard it is to convince a team on game 78 of a lost season in which you have been eliminated when you're going up against a team like the Brooklyn Nets to dial up like this? the reason I was so upset about that fan on Fan Network or whatever who said like this team doesn't care, this team doesn't play hard, blah 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 blah. The reason I was so upset about that is because like, my God, this team cares so much. Just because they didn't win a game doesn't mean they don't care. Just because someone scored 5 points doesn't mean they doesn't care. They care tremendously. And all of that caring and all of that organizational culture and all of that building up of human beings, I believe 100% is going to translate to winning. Because when are people most inclined to fight, right? I'm gonna be careful how I say this. When the Houston Cougars made that mistake, and by the way, like this comes from coaching as well at the collegiate level. Like the Raptors are specifically drafting from pipelines that are known to produce these exact types of players. Houston, Baylor, Kansas, Florida, FSU. FSU is a big one, right? Leonard Hamilton preaches this shit all day, all day. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jameer Watkins on this team. So when you think about the Houston Cougars making that mistake, right? And you had a like they, if y'all remember, they poked away the inbound pass from Sion James. The player who did it goes to the bench and he looks so defeated, like he just cost his team a national championship. And what you notice is his teammates are not bickering at him. They're not pointing fingers at him. They're actually trying to support him. That matters. That matters in that moment. It allows him not to quit and allows them not to quit because there's a togetherness and there's a feeling of we got this. When you watch the UConn Huskies, the female UConn Huskies, there is no finger pointing at all. That shit is weeded out. Gino Auriemma just pokes that shit out of them right away. That culture, it matters, right? It matters very much because when you get down 5, 6, when you don't have that culture, you fold, you implode, and you start pushing people. You start throwing rocks. You start pointing fingers. You start distancing yourself because it's a bad situation. Something I noticed about myself on the panel and myself on PC is that I'm almost always in fight or flight. And shout outs to Hayes for bringing that, fight or flight element up. I hadn't thought about it that much, but I realized because of how much I read the chat over there and sometimes how much I read the chat over here, that I'm almost always coming in with my dukes up, right? I'm not coming in from a place of peace. I'm not really coming in as my best self. I'm usually not coming in relaxed. I'm usually coming in a little bit tense because I don't know who's going to call in and say what crazy thing or, what troll, accounts are going to come in and say something or what I'm going to be accused of in the PC chat. And I'm almost always like paranoid about meaning like who's taking the jab next, and you almost feel like you're fighting. And people who are always in fight or flight can be very annoying. And I'm noticing that. But it's easy to be in fight or flight when you constantly feel like you're alone. It's teamwork, it's camaraderie. I think one of the biggest reasons that I've calmed down and I'm gonna definitely head over to the playback stream and have a very peaceful 20-30 minutes on there. I think one of the reasons that things calmed down so much for me was because Hayes decided to take the tone that he did. And he, I watched it back. I rambled incoherently for like 20 minutes. I don't know how he had the patience for that. I apologize. I don't know like why I had to tell him about every single example of Asperger's or give his son an inspirational message. I don't know why I don't know why the hell I did that. It was, but it took a really big person to do that because, he didn't have to. I didn't invite him to call in. He just did that of his own accord. And I think that shows him as a person. I don't think Damo had to come over with the respect that he did or with the energy that he did, but he did. And even though Ox and I did not have the best interaction on, his channel, we were able to squash things out via a string of chat, messages where I was also very long-winded there. I was very long-winded there and he put up with it. And I feel a lot better. Why do I feel better? Because I'm not in fight or flight right now. I feel somewhat supported and understood. And I don't feel like I'm being put out to pasture. I don't feel like everybody wants me off the show. And now that I don't necessarily feel that way, I think I can approach interactions with a lot more calm and I don't have to constantly be like, okay, who's jabbing at me now? Who's jabbing at me now? That's what teamwork does. It insulates the individual from their worst selves, because nobody wants to miss a big shot with the game on the line. But you know what makes that situation worse? When you go to the bench and everybody stands away from you. You know what makes the situation better? When you go to the bench and everybody puts their arm on you and says, let's get him in OT. Teamwork, culture, selflessness, selfishness, all this stuff. You remember the body language when Fred VanVleet was taking that three and Gary Trent Jr. just walked off to the defensive end because he was so sick and tired of it. You see how many times Scottie Barnes is like up in arms when Fred VanVleet misses him on a cut. And I'm not trying to bring this always back to Fred, but it really does start with that type of energy. And maybe Fred himself felt like he was being, I empathize more with Fred today than I ever have before, because I wonder if he felt that way. I wonder if he felt like he was going to get Chris Boucher. Now, I don't think he was about to get Chris Boucher, but look at what's happening to Chris Boucher right now, right? He's not playing. He's in a contract year. I don't know if the Raptors are going to bring him back, but you don't want to be in that situation. This is a messy business. The game of basketball is a messy business. And when you don't have a contract next year and you're a 6-foot guard approaching your 30th birthday, you can get pretty paranoid because you worked very hard. You've been underpaid your whole damn life. This is the biggest payday of your life. And I never once ever empathized with Fred VanVleet. Never. Because my Scottie fandom never allowed me to see it from his perspective. When his family was coming at my throat saying, why are you saying all this shit about Fred? I never was able to understand it, like how alone he probably felt when they didn't offer him the contract that he wanted. I never really empathized with Pascal Siakam when they pulled that extension away from him because they felt like he wasn't worth building around. I've never really understood it from their side because it wasn't on their side. Today, I think I understand it a lot better from their side. And I hope that even though this conversation has devolved into, or maybe evolved or devolved, I don't know, depending on what you think, into a lot more than just basketball, I hope that it has been interesting to understand sort of the psychology of contracts and team culture from this perspective, because it's certainly been insightful for me. To the point of what the Raptors are building here, I think they're building something great. They are picking up great habits. They are playing together. They are developing. The development element of it is almost taking a backseat to the cultural element of it, but it is very important. You can be very together and not know how to play basketball. You will lose every game. So it is important that these players are getting better. But I think that the two things are very related. They are very related. Look, if I have a coach who's trying to make me better, and day after day I take your notes and I don't get better, you want to change my shooting form and I get worse as a shooter and I shoot the coldest percentages of my life, I got to have a lot of faith in you to keep going with the process before I, basically just throw my arms up and say, I'm not doing this shit anymore. If you're going to tell me at the beginning of the year that I'm going to play the hardest defense that I've ever played in my life, and we're going to be the 29th ranked defense, and to trust you that at some point all of this hypothetical, hustle is going to pay off. And night after night, we're getting beat. We're tired. Our jumpers are short. Our stats are off the charts, like terrible. We're shooting short on our jumpers. Our 3-point percentage is tanking. Our offense is in the dumps. And oh, by the way, for all that fucking effort that we're putting on defense, we're getting beat every time. And we're getting knocked out of the park, and we're getting dissected and criticized by everybody. I'm getting blown. I'm Grady Dick. I'm trying to pick up Jalen Green at half court. This is not physically possible for me. Why am I doing this? And you just don't buy in. You kind of buy out of that. You're just like, you're crazy. You don't know what you're doing. This is not how defense is played. But they bought in. Everybody bought in. And it didn't really start working until RJ really bought in. And I want to give a shout out. RJ had a really, really cold shooting night today. But he's still dialing up on defense. Still dialing up on defense. Game 87 or 77 or 78 of the season. Season is lost. Doesn't matter. RJ is blocking shots. RJ is deflecting. RJ is doubling down. And, the hedge and recover has been so great. He's moving his feet a little bit better. He's not the most physically gifted defender, but he is trying. And that's all you want. That's all you want. That's nuts. That's nuts. My prophecy, by the way, for OG Anunoby, I don't know if any of y'all remember this, but you're reminding me of something. I'm actually going to pull it up and play it as the outro for this live. So I'm just reminding myself to do that. Anyways, point being, I think the Raptors are in a good place. I do want to say that I never wanted to trade OG. I was very sad when OG got traded, but overall, like, it is what it is. Like, we got fairly compensated for the most part. Oh my god. Hold on. OG Anunoby. Don't tell me I deleted this video. No, I didn't. Perfect. This is from 3 years ago. And it's going to be a really, really nice callback because I never shared it on this channel. I don't think I've ever shared it on any of these lives. So you're going to see a video. You're going to see a video from me that you've probably never seen before, and it's about OG Anunoby. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, so I just want to say I think the Raptors are in a great place. I do hope they can get this final loss. All the tanking talk and all the culture talk and all that stuff, but overall, like, this team is heading in a very, very positive direction. I don't think you need to worry. I think whoever the draft pick is that comes into this culture is going to be blessed, like blessed so much, because they're going to see a team that works hard. And you know what? It's really hard to be the lazy defender on a team that defends. Something that you realize about culture very quickly is organizational culture dictates individual actions very much. When you go into an office and you notice that the boss strolls in 10 minutes late every single day, the secretary is always disorganized, your coworkers are often 5-6 minutes late, how soon before you give up your habit of always being 10 minutes early? How soon? Probably 2 weeks, unless you're the most disciplined person on earth. Maybe if you're super disciplined, and you'll just continue doing what you're doing regardless of everybody else. But for most people, that's how it goes. We show people how to treat our environment. If you have a messy home, don't be surprised if your guests treat it like shit. If you have a very clean home, don't be surprised if your guests, even the messy ones, are inclined to feel bad about being messy, because that's the environment. You create the right environment, things can grow. And the Raptors have created a perfect environment for young players to grow. Now, I do think that as the focus shifts away from just this farming of talent and skill development and all this stuff, as we move into the next phase of this, then now you'll see all of all of this work, because it's very easy to dial back defensive aggression. It's not very easy to dial it up, right? I can make you less aggressive. It's very difficult for me to teach you how to play more aggressively, because the minute, like, when you're aggressive, you're fast. You're fast to the ball, you're fast on your feet, you're fast on the rotations. You have to do everything sped up, right? Because you're communicating, you're rotating, you're deflecting, you're doing everything at like a rapid pace. So yeah, it burns you out a little bit for sure. And it can lead to a lot of foul trouble. The Raptors foul more than any team in the league. But once you learn to play that way, and you learn to shuffle your feet that fast, and you learn to read those connections very quickly, now if I tell you to scale it back 10%, you can still be a very good defense without being dead tired, because you're in peak condition, because your muscles have been sort of developing to move your feet better laterally, because your decision making defensively is sharpening because I'm asking you to do things at a very rapidly accelerated pace. And by the way, it's the same thing on the offensive end. The Raptors spent a great deal of time during Darko's first season implementing their offense for their key players, which includes Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett and Scottie Barnes and Grady Dick. So now you're doing the same thing on both ends. Look, 0.5 basketball doesn't mean that Brandon Ingram isn't going to hold the ball next year. I can almost guarantee you he's going to hold the ball a little bit next year. That's his game. That doesn't mean that Scottie Barnes isn't going to cook with the ball for like 3, 4 seconds, 5 seconds before he makes his move. These rules are not for everybody. 0.5 is just a way that I would prefer to teach young players how to play the game, because it sharpens your decision making. When you know that you have to make a decision very quickly, it often makes you smarter. It improves your basketball awareness. When you play 3-on-3 as often as the Raptors do, that also sharpens your decision, because in a 3-on-3, having 2-on-3 breakdowns is very common. Learning how to dissect a 2-on-3 is the fundamental of basketball. Learning how to dissect a 3-on-2 is the fundamentals of basketball. You watch any game right now, turn on any game, find me how many times you see a 3-on-2. 4 players are out of the play, it's 3-on-2. 5 players are out of the play, 3-on-2. 1 player doesn't get back, 3-on-2 on one side of the floor. 1 player gets picked off, it's a 3-on-2. So this whole thing is about like making these players sharper. You're making better basketball players. And it doesn't matter if their role is necessarily ball handling or being a point guard. You want every single player on your team to be sharper and quicker in their decision making because that is your competitive advantage. The reason you prefer Allen Iverson to a slower point guard is because he gets from one place to the next faster. But you know what's really curious about basketball? There's never been a player in NBA history. This is a fact. You can fact check me on this. You can go to Google and you can say, is Penn right? There's never been a player in NBA history who moves faster than the ball. Fact or not fact? Fact. So if you learn how to move the basketball the way the Raptors have, not only are you sharpening your passing as you do that, you're also sharpening your decision making, your basketball IQ, and everything. So now when you go into next season, you just have better habits. You have better habits. You have a better mind for the game. You've learned the game at a deeper level. And that's, by the way, something that most teams don't do. They don't teach the game. They assume that you're a professional basketball player. You should know the fucking game. I don't think the Charlotte Hornets are spending a lot of time teaching the game. No disrespect to Charles Lee and their coaching staff over there. I don't think they're spending a lot of time teaching the game. There are very few coaches that have that sort of fundamental awareness to do that at the pro level. This is not college basketball. You should have known how to play the game. That's why so many players struggle. And I had so many of my favorite prospects, like Quintel Woods and Martell Webster. They didn't become like stars that I thought they would become, but I felt ultimately that if they'd ended up in a different situation where there was a little bit more of a patient approach to teaching the game, people act like the Spurs are so good at drafting. That is cap. Okay, let me make one thing explicitly clear: the Spurs are good at drafting, but their success with Kawhi Leonard and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili extends far beyond drafting. People get so obsessed with the draft. Oh, draft high, tank. That's not the fucking point. You can get a Jacoby Walter at 19 and he can become a league MVP. I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he's going to go on an all-star. I'm saying he could. He could become like a 13 all NBA guy in 4 years and we'll be laughing. But my point here is that if you don't even create the right environment and you're not willing to teach the game and you're not willing to bridge those gaps and you're just like, shit, you're a pro, figure it out yourself, you're not even giving yourself a Spurs under Greg Popovich specifically were all about team. Any person who dissented from that, any person was immediately ostracized. There was actions, taken on that player. It was very cult-like. I'm gonna be honest. It was very cult-like, and I was pretty critical of it. But now I have a greater appreciation for why sometimes basketball teams do have to be that way. And I don't feel like the Raptors are cult-like. They're not limiting Scottie Barnes' individuality. The Spurs had issues with certain players who were a little too flashy. I don't think the Raptors are doing that. They're taking all the good parts of what the Spurs did, which is the team first, faith-based, higher power, team is greater than the individual, rhetoric, the training, the individual development, the teaching of the sport. They're taking all of that without all the military shit that came from Greg Popovich, right? Which is the no flashy dunks, no commercials. Like, do you remember buying your first pair of Tim Duncan shoes? Because I certainly don't. Like, it was just a weird situation in San Antonio. I'm gonna be honest, like for a small market team, they really didn't care too much. Players were always underpaid. The Raptors players are always overpaid. So it's just like it's for the modern athlete today. You're not that shit ain't gonna work. Like it didn't work with Kawhi, and it's so ironic that the Spurs and Raptors, have traded so often because they are similar in that sense. And I, have read a lot about Masai Ujiri. I follow him very closely. I've become somewhat obsessed with his career because I do think to myself, what a great model, for me to try to aspire to. I'm not 100th the person or 100th the basketball, person that Masai Ujiri is, but it's someone that I've always admired from afar. And I know that he admires, certain examples, certain systems, certain coaches, certain, ideas from afar. And I know based on listening to him for many, many years now, that the Spurs are one organization that he always just admired because they were able to sustain this like success for so long. And it transcended whoever retired. I mean, David Robinson leaves, they're still successful. Tim Duncan's gone, they're still successful. Granted, not for long. Before Tony and Manu got there, they were still successful. They had injuries, they were still successful. They would swap out role players. They had guys like Danny Green, Steven Jackson. They had so many of these players kind of come in and be staples. Boris Diaw, like they brought out the best of Boris Diaw. So it's like you take all of that and you're like, man, what a superpower for a franchise that your organization and your scouting and your training staff and all these things that don't count on your cap sheet, none of these things require lottery luck, that these things are the deciding factor between whether or not you're successful or not. And ultimately, it is your organizational culture and the trust and the leadership in that organization that leads to this type of success, sustained success over time, and not the flash in the pan success of like one lottery pick or the flash in the pan success of championship, one championship run. I mean, what would you rather have? One championship or 20 chances to win a championship? 20 real chances to win a championship, 20 years where you're a contender year after year after year. And yeah, sometimes you get swept up in the first round. Sometimes you get packed up in the second round. Sometimes you're one buzzer beater away from an NBA championship, but you're there. You're there every day. Take the 20 years every time. Take the stable organization every time. And I think, when Masai Ujiri says, there's something of a mawkish coverage of Masai Ujiri. People just think he's the ultimate hype man, and and he is. Let's not lie here. He's very charismatic. There's a reason why he becomes front facing more often when the Raptors are in turmoil, and he settles things down and gives us all that little pep of hope. When he says we will win again in Toronto, I 100% believe that he is speaking from a place of assured confidence, because he's done it before. We did this before. This is what this team was: selfless development, organizational, structure, scouting, all of it, all departments working together, great people being attracted to it. Like attracts like. Brandon Ingram wants to be here. Suddenly draft picks want to stay longer. Everyone has this like mythological way of rationalizing success or failure, right? They want to ascribe all of Toronto's failures to nobody wants to play in Toronto. I want you to look at the Toronto's organizational structure, ownership, coaching, general managers before Masai Ujiri and tell me, do you want to play in Toronto? Go fuck that noise. You don't. You wouldn't. Trust me, you wouldn't. I've read a lot. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of stories. Been in contact with people who were close to the organization in 2001, 2002. Been following this team for that long. Trust me, you don't want to be a Toronto Raptor in 1999, 1998. You would not want to be around during the Rob Babcock years. This organization cut corners everywhere. That shit burns players the wrong way. Why would they want to stay here? Now you create a situation where players literally want to flock here. You ask me, honestly, Giannis is a free agent. You don't think you're eligible to sign him? You 100% will be. Shea is a free agent. You don't think you're eligible to sign him? You are. Create a winner, create the structure, the players will come. I think the Raptors are in a great place. Like I keep saying it, they're in a great place. It's weird to say that for a team that has yet to crack 30 wins, that you're in a great place. And I understand that. I understand that sentiment from fans that, what are we talking about? So I'm not drinking this Kool-Aid. Scottie Barnes is not a real superstar. Brandon Ingram is super injury prone. Emmanuel quickly is overpaid. You're really focusing on you're missing the forest from the trees, right? All of these players are working together towards a common goal. Like the fact that they're all getting better in some discernible way is important. And they've all agreed to play this season out in suboptimal roles. And I think that that's important. Scottie Barnes, like imagine how that conversation went. I want you to imagine that you're Scottie Barnes. Okay. $45 million is a lot of money to me, to you, to a kid from West Palm Beach, to anybody. $45 million is a lot of money. And that's the difference between the contract he could have signed and the contract he will sign, and or has already signed, and the contract that could have been amended had he made All NBA. And I do think All NBA was totally in the cards for him. I think he's more than skilled enough to make it. So I want you to imagine that you're in the office and, Scottie Barnes comes in. Sorry, you're Scottie Barnes in this case. I'm Masai Ujiri and I say, hey, or I'm Darko Rajakovic and I say, hey, Scottie, I know you got this $45 million thing on the line. We're going to have 5 rookies on the roster this year. We're probably not going to play our veterans very much, by the way. So we're going to sit out and really milk the injuries to Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown until we're ready to trade them off. We're going to have Davion Mitchell playing a lot of minutes for you so we can establish some value for him so we can flip him at the deadline. We're going to try to play Chris Boucher as much as we can in very suboptimal ways, give him a lot of shots so we can perhaps boost his value, trade him at the deadline. We're going to develop all these rookies. We're going to try to give them a lot of minutes. we're going to have this very aggressive pressure style defense that's going to lose a lot of games early on. Oh, by the way, our schedule is really a nightmare. And you're going to play like the most you're going to play very differently from how you played. So, last year we noticed that you shoot really, really well from these corners. You really worked on this 3-point shot, the catch and shoot from the corner. You were very good at it. We're banning this from your game this year. We noticed that you were pretty decent above the break on catch and shoots, right? Not doing too much with the basketball. We understand there's certain zones that you like to be productive. We're going to take that out of your game, and we're going to have you do a lot more pick and roll initiation and a lot of, step backs and a lot of, dribble pull up combos on the 3-point shot. We're going to have you take deeper threes because we want you to get used to the fact that you're not always going to be, in the corners, and we want to extend your range out. By the way, the difference between the corner 3-point line, 22 feet, and above the break is 22 versus 23.9. And if you step back to where Scottie has been taking these threes, he's been taking often threes from like 26, 27 feet. 1 point earlier this season, notice that his average distance on 3-pointers was like north of 25 feet. We're going to have you do a lot of mid-post work, even though it's not great for your analytics and probably not great for us as a team because we want to see if you can do it. And, we're going to alternate starters. And, oh, hey, by the way, here's the deadline. Do you understand how frustrated a player who's got $45 million on the line would be to hear that this is where the season is about to go? Do you understand that? And now when, you start rolling a little bit, we're winning. We were winning, by the way, mid-season. If you noticed, we were rolling. Scottie was rolling, getting some real chemistry with Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk. Oh, by the way, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, they're gone. The third player who was contributing to a lot of winning for the Raptors, Chris Boucher, he's having DMP CDs. We haven't seen him in March, haven't seen him in April, don't expect to. And we finally traded for a co-star for you, Scottie Barnes. He's a player that solves all our problems. And, he's one of the best isolation scorers in the league. He's going to make offense very easy for you. He could, the East is abysmal this year. We can really get to the playoffs. And, oh, by the way, we're not going to play him. And we're not going to play Chris Boucher either. We're going to play 10-day guys and role players and two-way guys, major minutes. And we're going to rest Jakob Poeltl on alternating nights with Emmanuel Quickley. And the nights that they play, RJ's not going to play. And on the nights RJ plays, they're not going to play. So you're never going to have a chance to really beat the teams that you want to beat. And you're still going to have to dial up and play really, really fucking hard. You have no chance at all NBA. I just took $45 million off your table. And he was just like, cool. Would you be cool? Would I be cool? Would Cade have been cool? Would Evan Mobley have been cool? It's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. And trust me, $45 million, if you're working for $45 million and there's already a voter bias to get you the $45 million, because we know that all NBA voting has a little bit of a bias towards players who are eligible for this, i.e. Tyrese Halliburton last year, i.e. Jaylen Brown the year before. We know this, and Scottie knows this. Jaden's saying, I'm getting paid regardless. I'd be cool. Most NBA players would not be cool with just losing $45 million like that, my man. All-star to All-NBA was a very natural progression. If I told you prior to the season that the Raptors won like 39 games and Scottie made All-NBA, I don't think most of you would bat an eye, especially if I gave you the context that Joel Embiid was out and Wemby was out and like 30% of the players that you think would have made those teams. Like, I'm basically telling you, he's like a top 25 player. Like, I don't think most of us would have been surprised by that. And instead, he's had this immense, shooting regression and production regression. And now he's averaging 18.9 points per game. Oh, my God. Thank God for per 75 numbers so that we can make ourselves feel better with our fake stats. But, sorry, I couldn't help myself there. My bad, RD Anthony. I don't know if you're still listening. I had to say that. I don't know why I said that. That was petty. But what I'm saying is, it's a difficult pill to swallow, and it's a difficult pill to sell. And Darko got buy-in from his star player. He got buy-in from his star player regardless. And I think that is a testament, really, to just how connected and locked in this team is and how selfless they are. And you know what? It's a huge help to the Raptors as well to not have to pay Scottie Barnes that extra $45 million. It's also a big help to the collective mental health of Toronto Raptor fans who are already upset enough that he's getting a max contract. And I don't want to see them, burning the streets when he gets a supermax, because Lord knows people do not want him to get that supermax. So, from a team building perspective, it frees up about $7 million, $8 million, $9 million a year. $9 million a year on average AAV for the next 5 years. That's a really good player. I mean, it could be a good player. That's basically Grady Dick's salary. Or that's not Grady Dick's salary. What is that? That is, you know what's funny? That is your 8th overall pick salary. That's your 7th overall pick salary over the next 4 years. I think that's roughly right. No, that's like a 4th overall, 5th overall pick salary. That's a 5th overall pick salary over the next 4 years. So how much is Cade's and Mobley's salary bump mess with their team's cap? Mobley's salary bump will mess with his team's cap a lot. It really helps them tremendously that Jared Allen is on a very team-friendly deal. I don't know how long he'll be on that deal. The Cade extension doesn't hurt them very much because they have a whole bunch of rookies, and frankly, because of his primacy and how much he handles the basketball, nobody else around him necessarily has big numbers. So I don't know what Malik Beasley's contract situation is, but the Pistons are one of the cheapest teams in the league in terms of salary. So I don't think they're going to be pushed at all. And honestly, with the way Cade has played this year, I don't think they're worried at all. I think they would pay him like $70 million a year. I don't think they care at all. So anyway, this live kind of went off into a different tangent. I hope it was an interesting tangent nevertheless. The point is the Raptors have to lose one more game, or the Spurs have to win one more game, or else we're in coin toss Ross territory again. And I really don't want to be there. I really don't want to be there, because that would almost make this not worth it for me, because like 8th, like would I rather be 8th or would I rather be in the play-in? Like now we're really getting there, like I understand like you're giving yourself a chance to Cooper Flag, but it's like you start moving from 7 to 8 and it's just like, man, what happens if team 10 jumps you? Now you're freaking picking 9th. Like I don't want that to happen. Jamal saying, are you joining Jordan on playback? Yes, I will. I will get off this stream. I will take 5 minutes to drink some water, and then I will hop on playback for probably 20 minutes, take a whole bunch of shit from the chat. I will go in very zen, not caring at all, and I'll hop off just as soon as I hopped on. So anyway, Arman saying, have you changed your view on Cade this season? Do you think he would be a number 2 on a championship team? We'll see how he does in the playoffs. Have I changed my view on him? Yeah, sure. I think he's a lot better than I did last year. I still remain steadfast about 2 things. Number 1, that I don't think he's a great defender, and I do think that the Pistons, defense is the reason that they're so good. So I think, people who are expecting me to come out and just bow down and say Cade is a top 20 player, just unfortunately, that's not how I feel. I still don't think he's the best player in his 2021 draft class, and I'm very much in the minority when I say that. I don't think he's better than Franz. I don't think he's better than Scottie, and I don't think he's better than Evan Mobley. I now see a clearer path for him to be better than Franz. It's just very difficult for me to move off of a player that provides a two-way impact of Franz Wagner. Cade would have to become like a 99th percentile offensive player for me to overlook how much I value the defense of Evan Mobley and Franz Wagner and Scottie Barnes. So, yeah. Anyways, Jamal saying don't read the chat on playback. I probably will. I'm gonna be honest. I know that you're telling me that's a bad idea, but to be clear about something, I said it the other day that one of the biggest things about PC, and I don't know if I said it on Oxa stream or this stream because the 2 streams just kind of like ran together in my mind because they happened they happened one after the other. But I said that one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to be on PC is precisely because it was very hard for me. It was very hard for me, and I know a lot of people in this community don't really want me to be on there. I get that, or I read the comments. Some of you do, but some of you don't, and I understand both sides of it. I do, and what I'm saying is it's hard for me, and because it's hard for me and it's pushing me in a direction that is hard for me is precisely why I want to do it. Because I believe that iron sharpens iron. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel stagnant. I think it's teaching me a lot, and it's making me care a lot more deeply about basketball history. It's given me a lot more reason to watch other games. Like last year, I'd be honest if I told you I watched maybe 200 games beyond the Raptors. We're talking all basketball, women's, men's, WNBA, NCAA, all of it. 200 prior to the draft cycle, and then I started doing some, more scouting. 200 games. I must have watched at least 750 games this year. No cap. There's so many games that I've watched this year. So it's just really, really like been it's forced me to dive in deeper. It's forced me to get a lot of pushback on some of my ideas, which is forcing me to get better ideas, refine my ideas, maybe adopt the pushback. So if I say something, about Jamal Murray and Swiper pushes back and says, "But this is about Jamal Murray." Well, now hopefully through that friction, I've gained a better perspective on Jamal Murray, and now I can talk about Jamal Murray better. I, my goal isn't just to sit here and just be the resident expert on the Toronto Raptors. Of course, it's my favorite team, but how much richer is my coverage if I am a basketball historian who knows about the entire league, who also knows about the Raptors, right? Again, I'm biting off a lot there, and also knows about a college basketball. And then, oh, by the way, also has a really great familiarity with EuroLeague. Like, if you get to that depth as a basketball mind, well, now you really do have like the bird's eye view. Like every notch, every game you watch, the perspective becomes higher and higher and higher. And I don't mean higher in some sort of hierarchy element. I mean higher in terms of vantage point. Your vantage point becomes better. And so, when we're doing trade shows, like, doesn't my understanding of Josh Minot help us when we're doing these trade shows? Does my understanding of what Leonard Miller's been doing this year, or Terrence Shannon, or my understanding of Keyshawn George, like, again, these are all young players that, we presumably a lot of us followed in college basketball, but keeping up with their NBA careers has been really good. Understanding, even in the playoffs, when we get to when we get to the playoffs, when we as the NBA community get to the playoffs, it will be ultimately, I will be very much focused on the Thunder because Shea is Canadian, and we can do playoff lives in between the draft coverage and scouting stuff. We can definitely do that as a community together. It will never be as popular as the Raptors stuff because I know most of you care about the Raptors above all else. But I do think, like, if we are going to grow as a Raptors community, we need to do the one thing that other fans or a lot of other fan bases don't do, which is actually care and watch other teams. And I know that that sounds counterintuitive and maybe tedious and time consuming, but it is important to know about the rest of the league. It's so important because you can become so glued and so deluded to your own players, right? You can become so oblivious to what's happening around the league. You can become so blind to how good another player is relative to your own player. And there's, of course, always going to be a bias for your hometown guy. You watch him more. But to be completely blind, I feel like my goal is that if you're a Pensare Basketball subscriber, that you're a more complete basketball fan, that you're not just glued into what the Raptors might do. Breaking news, the Raptors might, whatever, like the rumor mill, the gossip mill. I'm not interested in all that shit. Like what might happen. The Raptors issue amazing Brandon Ingram update. And the update is Brandon Ingram walked today. Like, why is that how you want to follow your team? I mean, to each their own, man. Follow the team how you want to follow the team. But me personally, I'd rather have a deeper insight into my team. I'd rather have a deeper insight into how my team fits in around the league. I'd rather understand how what my team is doing deviates from other teams around the league and maybe mirrors other teams around the league. That to me is how I would prefer to understand this game. And you may not be one of those people that wants to follow the game that way. You might just be like, yo, like the life talk, chill. The other team talk, chill. I don't want to hear about Paige Beckers and UConn. I don't give a shit about the draft. I just want to know Jacoby Walter. Is he good or not? Like, and I don't think we have a lot of those community members here. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think we have a lot of you here. I think a lot of you left. I think a lot of you found a Raptors podcast. You checked it on, and I was talking about getting a gun pulled on me at some point, and you checked out. or I was talking about some deeper shit, and you checked out, and that was perfectly fine. But we're trying to grow better people here, right? That's something Brian Macon often says, with his youth camps and stuff that he does with Handle Life. Shout out to Brian. That we're not just building basketball players, we're building better people. And I would like to think that if this community could be like, if whatever time we spend together can make you a better person, can make you more knowledgeable about life, can give you a deeper perspective. I actually want to read a couple of I want to call them chats. They're super chats. They're not super chats. One of them is an e-transfer. I am not going to read out the lady's name because I haven't received permission, but this was a $65 e-transfer that came in today, and it was very much appreciated. And it said, "You are greatly appreciated by so many." She wrote "do many," but I think she means so many. Thank you for your great basketball insights and your life lessons. So that was one, and thank you very much for that. This is not the first time she has done that, and I appreciate it very much. And I want to read something that really, I don't want to say like touched my heart, like, but it did touch my heart. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, don't cry. Okay, hi Pen. I just want to take time out out my day to say thank you for making me understand basketball at a higher level. I'm 13 and 6'3", and at times I get caught making bad plays that are 3 or 4 plays too slow. But after watching your very detailed film sessions, you really inspired me to become a better passer and think the game faster. With your help, I averaged 16.8 points per game and close to 7 assists and a rebounds a game. As I wrap up this letter, I just want to tell you to keep going and keep inspiring other young kids that want to think and understand the game at a high level. Yo, man, like, no bullshit. Like, that one caught me off guard heavy. That is, I never know. Like, I look at the views, 4,000 views, 3,000 views, 20,000 views, 80,000 views. They're just views. It just counts as a number, man. So I don't really know who everyone is on the other side of those views, but it's every single time we run Pen Dance and I get to meet some of you, every single time we receive one of these letters or one of these DMs or one of these messages, it inspires me to keep going. And it's a huge, huge vote of confidence that what we're doing here is not only relevant, but that it's original. It is very unique in terms of basketball spaces and basketball content. I'm glad that we have been more positive and that we're trying to move into a positive direction. At least if you drew a little chart of positivity, it's definitely trending in the right direction for the last 3 years. But perhaps most importantly, it is a reminder that like who you guys are, you know, like when I meet people and they're like leaders and they're athletes and they're young hoopers and coaches and like, man, I I don't think I need to tell you that maybe the average sports fan ain't the sharpest cookie in the sharpest crayon in the box. The average sports fan is loud and very one directional and very tribalistic in their thinking. But when I meet these like super interesting, introspective, spiritual, hardworking, you know, um, successful, athletic, sometimes artistic, creative people. Like I'm just like, yo, I didn't even know these people could be sports fans. Like I thought I was the only one. Like I thought I was the only sports fan who cared about art house films before we started, this channel. It's created a very, very cool community. I just want to say thank you to all of you for putting up with my ebbs and flows and my ups and downs and my tantrums and all that stuff. I will be better going forward. As a promise, I I messaged PC unprovoked. Actually, I messaged PC and I said I promise on my mama's grave that I'm gonna be better. Like that I'm not gonna do any of the extracurriculars, and then I meant it. All right. Rob, do you think Khaman will slip in the draft due to his performance in his last game? I I don't think he'll slip because of it, but at least he won't rise because of it. If that makes sense. If that makes any sense at all. Like if he had put up like a 6 block, 18 rebound, 12-point game, which he's fully capable of, by the way, even against Houston. Like, motivated Khaman Malawach on the offensive glass is not. That's some shit you don't want to deal with. So, yeah, it probably helps the Raptors' case a lot if you're looking to draft him. Now, I'm going to prepare you for something. Like, I've long suspected that I'm wrong about the Raptors' interest in Khaman. And the reason I say that is because I've been wrong 2 years in a row about who they're really interested in. I would have bet anything that they would have picked someone. I didn't think they were going to pick Grady Dick at all. Like, I thought they were super interested in Cason Wallace and Derek Lively and Bilal Coulibaly. Like, I thought those were their targets. And when those guys were off the board, I really would have assumed, based on past history, that they would have picked Jordan Hawkins. Like, I would have assumed that they might have picked Kobe Buffkin. I probably would have gone a lot of places before I went Grady Dick on that pick. And so, and then last year with Jacoby, like, as much as it makes sense in hindsight, and man, when I see his high school tape, I'm like 100% this is a Masai guy. I probably would have assumed they would have gone with Yves Missi, even though I knew Yves Missi was a questionable passer and how much passing plays into it. So I think it really, really depends on how much the Raptors believe that Khaman can grow as a playmaker, because I obviously think Ulrich can grow very much as a playmaker. So I do think this is, something, but Ulrich is a natural playmaker. Like, Ulrich, like, is a center in soccer, type of guy, even though he played goalie a lot. Like, he has the mind of a center in soccer. Like, he can play in the middle of the pit and he can make a lot of good decisions. And he's a really good short roll passer. I don't know how much the Raptors believe in that upside of Khaman. And if you do see him on the board on draft night, I just wouldn't be super shocked if they go Con Knipple, right? This, I think, might be my biggest one too, because it's the one prospect that I never talk about. And I'm like, yo, like, that's going to be their pick, right? They're just going to say shot making. I do think if you think that Trey Johnson is going to be what some people think Trey Johnson's going to be, you have to pick him, right? But if we play this out and Khaman and Derek Queen are both on the board, I just would not be shocked if they go Derek Queen in that situation. I just think his playmaking and his handle and all of the offensive stuff that he can do off the bench just provides something very different. You don't have any player like that off the bench. I mean, it's Scottie adjacent to some extent, but it's very different than Scottie as well. So, right. I think his shot making and creation is incredible. Are you talking about Trey? I don't know. Jeremiah Fears wouldn't completely surprise me, but it would a little bit. So Khaman is, like, clearly my pick. I really value centers who can do the stuff that he can do. But if they don't see him developing as a short roll passer, it probably won't be Khaman, and I'm not going to be super, super surprised. I do expect that if it's not Khaman, you'll have to trust that they did their due diligence in not going with Khaman Malawach. Medicals, whatever. Because, again, Masai, Joe Tuamu, super connected. Masai's super connected to the BAL. He's super connected to this kid. He's definitely got all the intel from all the coaches. Like, if this guy picked his nose 3 years ago, Masai Ujiri knows about it. Okay. So at that point, with all that information, if you still pass on him and you're the talent evaluator that Masai Ujiri is, I'm just going to have to say, my bad, this community. I really pushed the Khaman train a lot, and I'm just going to have to accept that I'm wrong. But I could really not. I think the one pick that would make me mad, and I'm going to just say this right now, if we pick Trey Johnson over Con Knipple, I'm just going to have to excuse myself off the stream and probably just cope. Like, I might have to do like 12 shots before I come back, because I didn't walk into this process talking about Con Knipple at all. You haven't heard me say the word Con Knipple before last month, probably 2 times. But watching him play and seeing his composure, and with how I feel about athleticism and how often, twitch and vert and wingspan and all these things are somewhat overstated as measures for athleticism, I just can't stop thinking that there's no chance in hell that Con Knipple isn't a really good player. And I do want to say that what I reiterated earlier, not in this stream, but in another stream, that I really think the Raptors need a late first in this draft. Well, that feeling is now even stronger. And it's not just stronger because I suspect that a couple of players are going to fall because of bad workouts, medicals, or simply, being under scouted or being from, a little bit older. But man, that kid from Florida, Walter Clayton Jr. I mentioned this in yesterday's stream, so I won't repeat myself excessively. But for those of you who didn't watch it, I'm very high on Walter Clayton Jr. I cannot tell you like his shot making, and it really is like college basketball is a guards game. The NBA is a wing dominated game, and so the size and the angles. But I think he's tough. I think he's physical, and I think he's a shot maker. And I think if you're gonna look for shot making, with a first round pick, like I don't know. With all the success we've seen with Jacoby Walter, with half this fan base basically telling me, more than half this fan base right now willing to throw Grady down a river to open up some more minutes for Jacoby Walter. I mean, think about this. 3 different drafts. Jacoby went 19th in the weakest of these 3 drafts, right? Ochai was a 14th pick as an upperclassman. Grady was a 13th pick after being Gatorade National Player of the Year. RJ was a 3rd overall pick. I'm pretty confident in saying if I opened up a poll right now, most of you, if asked who's the player among this bunch that you would least like to lose this offseason, you would pick Jacoby Walter. Am I wrong? Give me a W if I'm right. By the way, this is my martinica. It's from my girlfriend's Bulgarian, and I was supposed to tie it to a tree on April 1st. So that gives you an idea of how lost I am. So Armand saying W. That's what's up. Yeah, see, like I suspect this is the feeling. So if I suggest that if we get number 4 and we're not super thrilled with it, would I trade back for something like 8 and 18? Yeah, man, I think I would. It would actually be around the same money because of the escalation or de-escalation of the contracts. You'd be getting 2 players for 1, and you have a really, really good chance to get 2 players that you like a little bit better. The Raptors haven't traded down once in the Masai Ujiri era, as far as I recall. I can't remember them trading down ever. So I think they might just be a little bit more risk averse. Like I had initially suggested, the year that we got Scottie, that I would trade back with OKC if I knew for sure that OKC wanted Jalen Suggs, and I knew for sure that that Orlando was not going to pick Scottie Barnes. Then you can just get him at 6. And my idea, ironically, was to get 6 and 16, and so we could draft Josh Giddey with the 16th pick. Back when I thought Josh Giddey would fall down to 16, but of course that was before, and that was when Scottie Barnes was consistently being mocked as 7th, 8th, whatever. And then of course closer to the draft, he started getting mocked at 5th, and I was like, shit, we can't trade back. No, I'm a big proponent for trading back. Big proponent for trading back. I don't give a shit about picking high. I know value is found everywhere in the draft. Devin Booker, 13th pick. Donovan Mitchell, 13th pick. Klay Thompson, 11th pick. Steph Curry, 7th pick. Trust me, Steph Curry was the 4th guard picked in his own fucking draft. 4th. Am I wrong? Ricky Rubio, Johnny Flynn, James Harden. Yeah, he was the fourth guard picked in his own draft, if not the 5th. Was Tyreek Evans part of that draft too? I can't remember right now. So, man, like, lock in. He was the 7th pick. DeMar was the 9th pick. Like, this shit doesn't matter. It's just, you have to strategically map this out. I just cannot. Yeah, he was, right? Yeah, it was Tyreek Evans. So he was the 5th guard. That's an even wilder stat. Steph Curry was the 5th guard picked in his own fucking draft. Thank you, Hashim Thabit. That's insane. But when you think about it, he was also the first guard who was almost traded from that draft because the Warriors didn't think him and Monta Ellis fit well. So it's just like it's a progression. I think the Raptors have a stable system here, but I do think they have multiple needs. I think there's two big things that I want on this team, which is like a really versatile 3-4 that can guard and shoot threes, think Herb Jones. Someone like that. OG Anunoby. That player archetype is just missing on this team, and it would lighten the workload. And a rim protecting stretch five. If you can find those two players, I think there's a third player who's missing too. And, you know, when we went through this entire thing with Coach Mo, the exercise yesterday where we talked about which of these young players are actually going to play on this team next year. And I think, damn, there's no minutes. So you have to clear some way out for them. But the archetype, having the archetype in your system and developing is still a good idea. And for all I know, Ulrich becomes that rim protecting five, and we don't need to worry about it. But, you know, he might still be a few years away. So, yeah, I think the Raptors have multiple needs. I think Walter Clayton Jr. definitely fits one of them, though. The shot creation stuff that he can do, I have a feeling it's going to translate a little bit better than people are giving it credit for. So, yeah. Anyway, speaking of a player that the Raptors really need, and speaking of a player that I love, who is apparently on a heater right now and has averaged 25 points per game, this is my OG Anunoby mixtape from 3 years ago that's going to give you all the feels in the world. Are you ready? And this is the outro. Cheers, guys. Enjoy your night. Enjoy. And once again, a big congratulations to the UConn Huskies. If you are wanting to hop on playback and you are immune to the toxicity that you will perhaps experience in the chat, definitely go join us on playback. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. Okay.
Here on the dribble. It's going to be James. Here it is. It's under 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Here on the dribble. It's going to be James. Here it is. It's under 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater.
What Michael Jordan say? The ceiling is the roof. Nah, OG's got a chance to be special, man.
OG Anunoby buries a triple at the buzzer.
Is your imagination kind of taken off? Like you go, wow, I'm not even halfway there yet.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like I know this is just beginning.
Oh, rest in peace, super chat. Shit. W stream, W community from Cavs 2929. I'm so sorry. I almost missed it. I put it in my mind. I was like, definitely get back to this. I'm sorry I didn't. Definitely W stream, definitely W community. And I apologize for all the choppiness of this mix. I really did want you guys to enjoy this because I spent a lot of love and attention cutting this together. OG was my favorite player before Scottie Barnes. He was my favorite Raptor before Scottie Barnes. And he was showing some flashes of brilliance in the bubble. So I made this mixtape as kind of my ode to OG, right? He was my favorite player, loved him. So yeah, I'm going to restart the video. I hope you like it. Thank you, Cass, for this.
Here on the dribble. It's going to be James. Here it is. It's under 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater.
What Michael Jordan say? The ceiling is the roof. Nah, OG's got a chance to be special, man.
OG Anunoby buries a triple at the buzzer.
Is your imagination kind of taken off? Like you go, wow, I'm not even halfway there yet.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like I know this is just beginning.
OG. There you go.
He's got the ability, the physicality. OG muscling his way in, fading, and he ends a drought. Look at this right here. OG says, none of that. Get that garbage out of here. Wow. OG right there. Great defense by Anunoby. And OG with the denial. How about OG Anunoby? He's had 2 big blocks tonight.